All right, good morning. This is First Warn Storm Team Chief Meteorologist Brad Panovich. Going to give you an update on what's going on down in the tropics. The site you're looking at right now, a great website called stormpulse.com. And obviously, this is the same system we were watching last week. This is Invest 90, and you see it right here in the middle of your screen. We'll go in a little bit closer here to give you an idea of the area we're talking about. There it is. Looks like a big comma shape there. A very, kind of lopsided storm. Very typical for your early season storms. And right now, it's got a medium potential, which means between 30 and 50% chance of developing. Just give you an idea of where it's located from Cape Hatteras. We're about 506 miles from Wilmington, North Carolina, 542 miles from Charleston, South Carolina, 584 miles, and from my home base here in Charlotte, 715 miles from Charlotte, North Carolina. You can see the movement. There is none really because we don't have a really good idea where it's heading. For that reason, when I turn the models on here, you see they're kind of all over the place, and this is pretty typical for your early season storm, a slow mover and one that's blocked in by blocking. And because we haven't sent a plane out there yet, the models haven't initialized very well on the strength, location, and speed. Those are kind of primary factors that go into modeling. Right now, it's kind of a guess based on satellite information. To give you an idea of what the shear looks like out there, it's not ideal, and I don't think the shear is ever going to be great here. It's going to be pretty high. It's going to keep it from developing really strong. But again, this is pretty typical for an early season system. Water vapor loop kind of pans that out. This is kind of interesting because you've got this upper low over the Carolina coast, which is going to cause all kinds of issues for rainfall for us today. But if you look at the dry air getting entrained into the southern edge and almost wrapping around the center of circulation, this is not good for a healthy storm. But this low, what it's doing, the upper low over the Carolina coast, is actually aiding, if you think of the counterclockwise spin here, the outflow in the northern half of the storm and the eastern half. So that's actually helping a little bit. As long as the upper low moves in tandem with this circulation, it actually can aid its outflow to the north. But you can also see up here we got a trough digging in across the northeast. But if you look at the pattern here, this thing's blocked in. There's really nothing steering it right now. So if it should linger here for a couple days, which it looks like it will, it could actually get its act together a little bit. I think it's going to be hard-pressed to become truly tropical, a warm core system, but it could still become a subtropical storm, which essentially is the same thing as a weak tropical system. It just has fronts attached to it and has a cold core to it. But the effects on the coastline will be very similar along the North Carolina coast. Let's take a look at some of the guidance a little closer. Here's the early track guidance. You can see 72 hours to almost 120 hours. The models are just basically, this thing's going to be meandering out there. And then at the very tail end of the model suites, obviously this is way out, they have it shifting off to the northeast. That's still kind of debatable. This is the GFS ensembles, and you can see same thing. They're all over the place. They really, for lack of scientific reason, they have no idea what's going on. Intensity guidance, I buy this too because we're right there at the threshold of a weak tropical system with 40-mile-an-hour winds, 30-knot winds. This is going to be a pretty puny system. But overall, the thing you got to remember, we'll turn the models off here, is this thing is sitting out here for days after days after days. We're going to have this onshore northeasterly flow, which is going to produce rip currents, high surf, and probably beach erosion all across the southeast coast, maybe all the way down to the east coast of Florida. And there'll be gale force winds offshore. The other thing that's going to be interesting is the Gulf spill down here in the central Gulf of Mexico. The northeast winds will be affecting the eastern Gulf, which also means, the oil spill, at least for the time being, it could help keep it away from the west coast and the panhandle of Florida. And also help keep it out of the loop current at least for a couple more days. So we'll keep an eye on this system over the next few days. It's just kind of a novelty right now. I don't anticipate this thing becoming anything huge, but it is early, and this could be the beginning of a very active season. We've got very warm water temperatures over the Atlantic. We're now out of the El Nino. It's officially dead. So we're into a period of time where we have a lot of things working towards possibly a very active system. We'll keep you up to date here in the First Warn Storm Center, but just something to keep an eye on if you have any plans for the coast this weekend.